Pour écouter cette session en français, veuillez cliquer en bas de votre écran sur l'onglet Interprétation et sélectionner le drapeau français.
Hello, bonjour.
Barry Saleo.
On behalf of CTIN Africa,
the African Center for Cities,
Our Future Cities,
Red Cross Crescent Climate Center, and partners,
we're excited to welcome all of you
to the Rise Africa 2022 Action Festival.
Rise Africa has been growing since 2020
as a platform for thinkers,
doers,
and enablers,
committed to inspiring action for sustainable cities.
This year's theme is
creativity.
For me, this means blending skills to be able to communicate the climate change complexity in rapidly urbanizing cities.
We are walking dynamites of creative expression, whether it be in the arts, in the sciences, or in tech.
There are so many people in the African continent who have a huge skill base and are creative in the way they approach challenges.
Creativity in Africa is about embracing our hood. It's about dynamism and it's about embracing our indigenous knowledge.
I think agency is finding ways of giving power back to people, to groups, to young people, especially on a continent where it's a very young population.
One should be taking ownership and the responsibility to create an Africa that they would like to live in, as well as leave behind for the future generations.
I think what agency means to me is change from the ground up.
The importance of urgency is the recognition of the past and the recognition that we've lost time.
Urgency is about acting now to build more inclusive, productive, and resilient cities.
Is this need to creatively redesign and unlearn and explore new ways of thinking.
The festival is hosting 33 sessions
with 135 provocateurs from across Africa and the world.
Every session aims to show new ideas,
showcase ongoing action,
and launch new initiatives, bringing participants together
to chart a new route forward.
We hope that the festival program will inspire you.
At the festival, we encourage you to showcase your business and projects,
build lasting partnerships,
unleash your creative potential,
commit to sustainable action.
Rise Africa is about translating ideas into action. What actions are you going to commit to this festival?
Before the session begins, it is important to note that you're being recorded.
And by participating, you are given the consent to be recorded.
All recordings will be available on the program page after the festival. Creative expression is vital for creating new futures for our cities.
And so we invite you to enter this session in the spirit of creativity and dreaming.
L'Afrique est fatiguée de se retrouver dans l'obscurité. Elle est fatiguée de naviguer contre les courants de l'industrialisation. L'Afrique me dit qu'elle est fatiguée de se reposer au feu du bois. Il est donc temps de faire sauter les compteurs. Éclairons l'Afrique, libérons son énergie pour libérer son potentiel. Accélérons le rythme cardiaque de son développement. Libérons son énergie pour libérer son potentiel. Transformons l'enveloppe énergétique de l'Afrique pour stimuler son développement. Car la nature nous a tellement gratifiés de ses richesses. Changeons l'histoire, éclairons l'Afrique, donnons un bout de lumière à chaque foyer en Afrique est une possibilité. Changeons l'histoire, éclairons l'Afrique. Libérons son énergie pour libérer son potentiel.
Thank you. So welcome everyone. My name is Melissa Zisengwe. Welcome to the Using Civic Technology to Unlock Africa's Urban Opportunities session at Rise Africa. I am Melissa Zisengwe, as I've just said, from the Civic Tech Innovation Network, and I'll be your moderator today. As we said in the video, please note that you're being recorded and the session will be on YouTube, and we may also turn it into a podcast. Just a few house rules. I think we're all used to it now, but please do mute yourself. Let's be respectful. But most importantly, I think let's engage with each other. Let's use the chat for questions, comments, anything. I think it's better when we're all in one room and we're trying to actually engage. I don't want to just talk to myself. So this session is essentially about local tech and innovation for inclusive community-focused urban development. And we essentially put the session together to highlight the intersection of civic technology and African urban challenges, as well as offer or highlight examples of civic tech and how it can be leveraged more effectively around Africa's urbanization challenges and opportunities. And I have two speakers for today. One of them is just running slightly late, but she will join us just now. So we have Pierre Shawnowski from the World Bank. He's a disaster risk management specialist at the Global Facility for Disaster Reduction and Recovery. He's a consultant at the World Bank for the Digital Development Global Practice and has since contributed to analytical work and lending operations in Africa, Europe, and the Caribbean regions. And Pierre's my main areas of expertise are digital platforms, open data, and geospatial technologies in support of disaster and climate risk management. And we also have Joyce Mavungu from Aston Network. She's a project officer there, an urban planner specializing in international cooperation in the Global South with a background in civil engineering. She has previously worked at the UN Habitat Climate Change Planning Unit in Kenya. And since then, she's just working at Aston Network with supporting the cities of the network, conducting their local activities and delivering their outputs. So for today's session, we're gonna try something a little different. We're gonna start with a video. This is just a short video of a documentary that we produced, the Civic Tech Network and Aston Network. And it's a documentary about the challenges and opportunities for urban digital innovation in Africa. So Emily, you can go ahead. And thank you all for joining us.
I think the challenge here is to look for whether we can innovate.
I think we're just seeing half the screen, or is it just me?
We have huge real life challenges in Africa, and even pre-COVID, the levels of poverty, inequalities we've been dealing with, I think, have simply been unsustainable, and that's we have to use all of the resources we've got to address these issues.
We're facing huge unemployment. I think it's now standing at 42%. That's huge, right? And most people that are unemployed are young people, as well as women. In fact, women in the latest statistics. So there's two big challenges.
In terms of challenges, I would say one.
Emily, I can show it if you're having
capacity
trouble.
At the municipal level to implement some of the plans. 3 will be limited funding.
Yes, sorry, please show it.
Okay, let me just try. Is it good?
Africa abounds with creativity. There's so much innovation here that I don't even think the challenge here is to look for whether we can innovate. We are constantly innovating. The question is, how can we leverage it to address the challenges that we really have? And African cities have many challenges. We have huge real life challenges in Africa, and even pre-COVID, the levels of poverty, inequalities we've been dealing with, I think, have simply been unsustainable, and that's compounded obviously with the challenges then of climate change, biodiversity issues, now health pandemics. we have to use all of the resources we've got to address these issues.
We're facing huge unemployment. I think it's now standing at 42%. That's huge, right? And most people that are unemployed are young people, as well as women. In fact, women in the latest statistics. So there's two big challenges.
In terms of challenges, I would say one, limited access to data flying purposes. Two, limited human resource capacity at the municipal level to implement some of the plans. Three will be limited funding for infrastructure projects. And then four is the top-down nature of government sometimes.
Personally, I see constraints as opportunities. And I see what amazing things that can create. And that kind of mindset, I find it a lot among the cities I work with.
When you start to investigate and look closely on the ground, there is so much happening, and there are so many champions of innovation, both in civil society and in government. And we found that, you know, especially where officials are passionate about a project or about a particular issue, there is so much opportunity.
In terms of the opportunities, I would say the biggest is Africa's young entrepreneurial population, and then the growing access to broadband that can be used that can enable access to digital services.
And beyond that, also having potential performance standards related to, you know, how many startup partnerships do you have as a public sector institutions, and also making sure that the policy allows for, you know, utility service providers or municipalities to form partnerships with innovators to improve their service offering, because oftentimes there's kind of like a chicken and egg where, you know, the public sector says, okay, the institution that we partner with has to have a track record of implementing solutions for at least 10 years. And then obviously that creates barriers to new innovators. And it also creates often barriers to local innovators, because oftentimes, you know, the firms that are out there providing these services already tend to be from sort of more established markets.
We are dealing with a policy environment that is antiquated to the time and space that we're in. And what we're doing right now is, you know, going through a review of some of these policies that actually are inhibiting us from being able to accept young tech and future things that are coming out without going through, as he said, this bidding process. And the bidding process, there is a frustration even for us, because, you know, it really limits you to, as you said, all of these criteria that really is applicable to your more medium and larger sized businesses.
One example would be in eThekwini, which is the Billhaven Harm Reduction Center. And I guess, you know, the technology here isn't particularly innovative. It was tech and kind of medical research that already existed. But what was innovative about this was that government identified something that was already happening and being championed by NGOs who really know the sector best. And what the government officials from eThekwini were able to do was to support the project without being the drivers of the project, and for them to understand that there are other people who are experts and who know best and who have the passion and know how to undertake this very complex and collaborative approach to dealing with substance abuse.
So if I had one big idea for how to use innovation in Africa to address sustainability and development challenges, it would be partner, partner, partner. Partner with the non-state actors, figure out how to make that work. There are a lot of amazing capabilities in the tech space, but also other non-tech innovations in civil society.
Another key element is, it is a bit linked with leadership, but it's not, it's more a question of position and mentality, which is for the city administration, the city leaders to accept the fact that they should be brokers and facilitators for the environment, the ecosystem that is on their territory.
I think the biggest institutional ingredient, it's not whether or not you have managed to have a plan or a business plan or a budget, and the council meetings are taking place, right? I think you need a bunch of gutsy leaders.
Embrace failure, because failure is absolutely necessary if we're going to innovate. And it's counterintuitive because, you know, our performance management systems don't want us to fail. But I really believe it's the only way to create an innovative culture.
Thank you very much. I hope you all enjoyed that. We put a lot of effort into that one. I see Joyce has joined us. Welcome, Joyce. I think we're still gonna go ahead and just let Pierre go first, and then you'll go second. So Pierre, I'm just gonna hand over to you. Again, Pierre is from the Open Cities Africa, which is a project by the World Bank. I'm sure he'll tell us more about it himself. Thank you, Pierre, welcome.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Melissa. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the invitation. So let me share my screen. Hope you can see.
We can see.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so let's go. So let me introduce myself again. So I'm Pierre Shawnowski. So I'm part of a unit at the World Bank called the Global Facility for Disaster and Risk Recovery. So it's a unit at the World Bank that is supporting cities, countries on disaster risk management, urban development, climate change adaptation. So we do that globally, and we support World Bank projects, but not only, we also work with other partners. All right, so I mean, we all know that we need information to plan for urban development, and so we know that it's quite difficult to get. So you need information on the population, you need information, you know, on the assets, on the buildings, on the infrastructures, to be able to do any planification. So if you want, you know, to start working on a new development project, if you want to start addressing issues of your cities in terms of, I don't know, risk of floods, for instance, or sea level rise, all those kind of risks that are related to climate change, you will need to collect a lot of data. And so the program that we established is to support that, to support data collection, but in a manner that it's not only, you know, done by you know, super high technologies, but that can be done by anyone from the communities. Because if you look at the way it was done, I mean, it has been done until now, and until we had Civic Tech, let's say. So collecting information on the city was really like very you know, top-down approach. So you would design a survey that would be costly, that would take a lot of time. You would have to procure a big company to do that, a big company from abroad. They would fly to the cities, they would perform the data collection, and you would get your data set after 1 or 2 years, and that's it. And so, for instance, let's take the example of census. Census are still, you know, in most of the countries, it's still very intensive effort. But you can't, you know, you can't wait for, I mean, a 10-year census or the next census for to be able to plan your system. So you need a lot of data on a, let's say, real-time approach. And for that, you have a lot of, you know, possibilities at local level, actually. So, I mean, you have your own capacities, technologies. You can be able to put in place, let's say, it's ethical framework, so that, you know, all the data that you're capturing on the people, they are not going abroad or they're not misused. So there are possibilities to really set up framework that can be owned by the local communities. So that's really, I think, the idea of the approach that we try to put in place, to have a methodology for data collection that is replicable and that is sustainable, using civic tech, open data, open source approaches, of course, making use of digital technologies, and again, making sure that it can be done by almost anyone from a city with some skills. So that also it can be, I mean, another very important aspect is that the information can be localized in the sense that it can capture, the local context, something that you can't see from, a satellite imagery, for instance. And so all of that has also to be very simple, which is not easy actually to develop such a methodology, but that was the challenge. And so we developed what we call the Open Cities Africa program. That was essentially a program to support cities, so municipalities, local NGOs, civic tech, let's say people, to collaborate together to do data collection for resilience purpose. So for instance, in Saint Louis, in Senegal, we work with the city to capture data because of the fact that they have sea level rise, that, it's a threat to the city. And so they needed information to be able to plan better for new developments. And so we have supported 16 cities in Africa so far. So the project ran from 2018 and to 2020. And we learned a lot throughout that process, and I'm going to share with you some of the key feedback. So first of all, a few words about Africa in terms of data on cities. So, I mean, again, I'm not going to teach you anything here, but Africa is very rapid urbanizing continent with a lot of hazards and vulnerabilities. So lots of cities that are growing very rapidly without appropriate planification, and with again lots of hazards such as floods, landslides, fires, extreme heat, and also for the cities on the coast, sea level rise. So that's a lot to manage. And I mean, the issue is that Africa is also a continent that's not very well mapped. If you compare, for instance, with Europe, in Europe, it's almost 80% of the continent that's completely mapped. If you look at Africa, that's still 15%. So that's progressing, but it's not enough. Clearly, it's not enough. So you need more information to be able to act. And not only you need more information, but you need more people that can actually conduct data collection activities. So people that have the skills to use digital technologies, that have the skills to understand the type of information they need to collect. And for that, so we design an approach that's not only focusing on the type of data you're going to collect, but that's also focusing on the capacity building, so training the people to collect the data through training programs, networking, opportunities to be able to learn from peers. And on top of that, to be able to do it in an ethical manner, so that you learn about what are the risks when you do data collection, what are the risks of misuse, what are the risks related to vulnerable population. And so we put that all together in an approach that we call the Open Cities methodology. So in a sense, the Open Cities methodology is really to support communities, again, to create and compile open geospatial data sets. So it can be data on buildings, it can be data on infrastructures, but it can also be data on the services that a city is supposed to provide. We also supported the communities to develop the tools that could make sense and leverage all those information, such as geoportals, data analytics to be able to run scenarios on climate change and how you're going to support your city to adapt, to try different solutions. For instance, what if I put more trees in my city? Is it going to help with extreme heat? So that kind of thing that you can only do if you have the right information. And finally, to help to help the people from the cities to build their own skills, and not only to build their own skills on the text, but also maybe to gain opportunities to earn money, get a job, because more and more you have more and more job opportunities in the field. So that was also very, very important for us. And so very rapidly, so a typical Open Cities program was like 4 phases mainly. So we would start with an assessment, a problem, what we call a problem statement exercise. So we will regroup all the stakeholders together to work on the issue and to try to refine the issue, to try to define exactly what are the information missing. And then we would engage in the data collection, the mapping activity. Third, we would help to develop the solutions. So again, that could be maps, that could be web applications, that could be applications that you can have online or offline, or even paper-based for people, to discuss. And then we would present. So very, I would say a traditional approach. So Open Cities was also about networking. So it was very important for us to create a sense of a community. And I think also it's something that you're going to see in the next presentation, is that's something that has been mentioned. The concept of partnership, the fact that you can learn from different cities in Africa is, I think, very, very important. And for us, so we organized conferences, we organized events, we set up a platform where people could interact online as well. And it was really a great opportunity to meet everyone, to learn from, issues in Cameroon, in Senegal, in Kinshasa. That was really a great experience. And we work with local partners. So when we say local partners, it means, of course, local governments, the municipalities, local agencies, universities. That's very important to, integrate like education partners and local communities. So you can have, like people from the settlements, like decision makers, local decision makers, and they need to be integrated at the beginning of the project. And then we would do the mapping. So the mapping would be done in two, let's say, two different ways. So one would be remote mapping. So we would use satellites, drone imageries, and then we would go to a computer and we would do the mapping, so without going on the field. So that would be the first part of the mapping. The second part would be field mapping. So then you would go on the field and you would capture information that you were not able to capture through satellite data. For instance, street view, the condition of buildings, so that kind of things. So yeah, so that's what we have done with Open Cities Africa. So in terms of results, so we were able to support more than 1,600 mappers, so people that learn how to, conduct an Open Cities methodology, that learn how to map their city. We engage with more than 1,000 of citizens to get their feedback on the features that were actually mapped. Like around 40% of participants were women and girls. That was really, really important for us. And in terms of outcomes, so for us, of course, we are the World Bank. So the idea was to for all those data to inform investment projects. And I think that's also, whatever you do, it's important to think about how your tech or your information can potentially inform either existing investments or can also maybe help to get money, help to convince a donor to support the development of your city. So we learn a lot, and so while we were doing that, also we saw a lot of new technologies being developed. For instance, machine learning, artificial intelligence, but also a lot of progress in the sector of Earth observation. So you have more and more data from space, from satellites. So it was important for us to try to continue to support local communities, but to do it in a way that they could now integrate those new, let's say, disruptive technologies. So that's why recently we set up the Digital Earth Partnership. So the idea of the Digital Earth Partnership is really to take all those lessons of community mapping, localized information, and to integrate what you can get from satellites data provider, for instance, or drones, let's say. And for that, so we have what we call a blended approach, where we continue to train people on the ground. We continue to train them to do community mapping. But then the type of data they are going to capture can be used, for instance, not only to capture like a traditional data set, but also to train artificial intelligence. For instance, you might know that it's now possible to detect buildings from the sky. But of course, if you train artificial intelligence, let's say in the US, and you want to apply the same in a city of Africa, it's not going to work because it's not trained properly with the right data sets. So for that, you need local data, and you need local context. You need people with local eyes to see those data. And that's what we are trying to put together, so that all those nice technologies, machine learning algorithm can be developed and adapted to the local context of African cities. And I'm just going to give you like 3 examples to complete my presentation with those type of new technologies that we have done recently. So one is urban heat mapping. So we have like huge issues of extreme heat in many African cities. And so what we have done in South Africa, in the cities of Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni, is that we supported communities to collect information on the heat, so the temperature, humidity, so that they could map their city. They could produce what we call an urban heat map of the city. And so not only they were able to do that with the appropriate sensors, but also combining with new models, they were able to see what it would look like, let's say, in 20, 30 years' time. So that's quite useful information if you want, to plan next developments, if you want to see where you could plant trees to actually reduce the heat of the city, or, for instance, also develop new transportation system. We have done another pilot in Tanzania and Sierra Leone, this time on urban tree canopies. So I think we have talked a lot about, the people, the asset exposed, but it's also useful to map the solutions. So in that case, communities, cities wanted to map trees, because trees have a lot of benefits. They can also help prevent erosion. They can, of course, contribute to reduce climate change. And so we were able to work with those local communities to map trees in the cities, thanks to algorithms or machine learning models that could capture with a quite high accuracy all the urban trees, or what we call canopy, in a city. And the last example in Mali is one where we work to identify solid waste or dump site, illegal or not well managed dump site, and you have a lot throughout the city. And so to be able just to, to clean them, but also to understand why you have so much waste in some areas of the city, it was important to capture that kind of information. And again, we used satellite data, and then we used an application that is called Map Swipe, where you can just, click on your smartphone and say, here, I think there is a dump site. And then people would then check and actually confirm or not. So it's very easy to do. It can be done without any digital skills. And then we work with more than 100 participants to do that. And so maybe as a conclusion, so again, I think that data collection process can be a really great opportunity to engage with a lot of different people in your city to start, working on an urban development project. I think also something that we are trying also to do is to, of course, teach all those people to work with new civic technologies, that kind of things, but also to learn how to integrate that into their own courses. Because we think that we are going to have a lot of demand for geospatial skills. And we think that's a good way to start exposing young people, young generation to that type of technology and skills. So for us, it's also a very important outcome when we see people, that can get a job after that. So that's all from me. Thanks again. Happy to respond to any question. And so see you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Pierre. I think there's just one question in the chat, and please send in your questions, send in your comments. That would be great. The first question is, what are some of the challenges you've experienced when you're collecting data across multiple countries, especially with different regulations?
Yeah, that's a good one. So maybe something I forgot to mention is that for the basic, layers of information, we often use OpenStreetMap to collect data. So OpenStreetMap is like a Wikipedia of the map. You can put buildings, you can put a lot of information as open data on it. So it was quite, an easy process. But we had challenges with, for instance, when you want to start flying drones. In many cities, you don't have really regulation on flying drones. So that's something. So I have colleagues that are really drone experts and that can guide you on, working with the different stakeholders in the city or at the level of government to get the right clearances to fly drones and get the data. Another issue relates to data privacy. So in many countries of Africa, you don't have data privacy laws. So it's very important to have a strong framework for your project on data protection. For instance, to ask for consent if you collect data on people, and to make sure that you minimize the number of information that you're going to collect, to make sure you don't collect data that could be misused or data that are not appropriate, let's say. So for that, there are like methodologies. There are lots of international organizations that have defined methodologies. But I think it's also important to support government and local governments on setting up their own methodologies on data protection and data collection so that it can be done the right way.
Thank you. I think there's another one from Bulelani here, who then, and I think it ties to what you're just talking about data protection. So he's asking, who becomes the custodian of the data, and does that vary from societies and countries?
Yeah, that's also a great remark. So for us, it's very important that, the owner of the end product is someone from the city. So that's the first thing, because in too many projects, we see, data captured on cities, on people, but that are actually owned by, a company or an international organization. And we don't think that's the right way to do it. If you want to manage your own city, you need also to manage your own data. You need to own them. But then you have the question of who is going to own the data on my city. And there you have to explore the different options. You know, you have to talk with different people. You have to also check in the regulations who is supposed to own data on a certain type. For instance, you know, you have data on the infrastructures. Maybe that's a municipality. You have data on the census. Maybe that's a statistical agency. You have the data on the weather. You maybe have a weather agency. So it's very important to understand that aspect, to work on the copyright issues. And sometimes there is no answer. So you have to define who is going to own those data. And that's why also we like to work with external partners in those localities, for instance, tech hubs or universities, because sometimes they are the only one, you know, that can take something forward in terms of like a new data set on something, and that can be the guardian of that information.
Thank you. I think Natasha, Joyce, and Nati, I'm going to come back to your questions in our larger discussion. I think it's time that we let Joyce take the center stage. As you all know or remember, Joyce Mavungu is from the Aston Network. Joyce, over to you.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. For our audience, Joyce is just traveling from the airport currently, so you have to bear with her.
Yes. Please excuse me for joining late and joining on 2 different devices. I'm trying to be as efficient as possible as I am. My flight had a little bit of delay, so I've arrived later than I thought I would be there, and I'm not able to join in the normal setup, but I'm sure it will be okay. So I'm going to share my screen and start my presentation right away. I'm not able to share my screen at the moment.
Emily, can you make a co-host, please? There you go.
Okay, thank you. You can see my screen?
Yes, just put it in presentation mode.
Yes. Sure. My Zoom is not working properly. Okay, so first of all, thank you for having me today to talk about and present the Aston Network. We've been working with the CTIN for a few months now, and it's been very great. So so just to present myself quickly, I'm Joyce Mavungu. I'm working as a cities project officer for the Aston Network. The Aston Network is a network of 11 African cities working together to digitalize their urban services in order to build more sustainable and inclusive cities for all of the citizens. So we have been working with these 11 cities since September 2019. The network is financed by the AFD, the French Development Agency, and it's inspired by and following the methods of the European network called urbaines. We have these 3 core principles, which are the integration. It has to be integrated vertically and horizontally. municipal level and also nationally when possible. It has to be participatory through the engagement and involvement of various range of stakeholders throughout the whole processes from beginning to the end. And it should be focused on action learning to solve concrete problems with tailor-made solutions adapted to the local challenges, the local situation, and the local realities. We found these 3 pillars at the heart of the network, which are networking, capacity building, and local solutions. That's why I feel like we are very in sync with what Pierre presented earlier. From September to December, around 3 stages. The first one is the phase of exploration, where the different cities express their local challenges, and the phase 2, which is engage, worked on engaging the identified stakeholders to develop their first draft of their local action plan according to the different things they want to work on. I will present these things just a bit later. And right now we are in the phase 3 of experimentation, which is
And Joyce, I think we have lost you there. I don't think if it's just my side. Can I get someone else? Is it just me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, Joyce, I think we've just lost you a bit. Can you hear me, Joyce?
We can hear you, we can not hear Joyce anymore.
Okay, I'll try to reach her and see what's happening on her side. Okay. I think what we can then do in the meantime while we're waiting for her is, Pierre, you can answer the rest of the questions that were directed at you, if that's all right.
Yeah, of course.
Sure. Thank you. So I think there was a question from Natasha. Are the data integrated with local government data, and what were the experiences with or of the cities?
Yeah. So the easy answer is that it depends. It depends on many factors, but it's always a challenge. A challenge because again, you have this issue of ownership, and so it's difficult. So let's take an example. So you have a municipality, they have their own maps, and you're starting you create your maps with, let's say, OpenStreetMap. And so of course it would be ideal if you could combine both data sets so that you can improve actually the map of the municipality. But then you may have conflicting licenses. You may have issue related to the standards that are used, but also, and that's often the case, you have reluctance from people to use data that are not theirs. So that's always a lot of effort to convince municipalities that they can actually use other dataset platforms. So I would say that's obviously, and I think that's also in the philosophy of civic tech and open data, to have the possibility to merge different information to improve the common baseline. But that requires a lot of conversation, dialogue, to explain to owners, data owners, people that sometimes, also they benefit themselves from the fact that they are selling data. So it's sometimes a lot of effort to talk to them and to explain to them that it is in their own benefit. to integrate external datasets. So that's what I can say. But again, we are seeing more and more examples where we are actually having municipalities or universities that are using lots of different data sources. And that's great, because in the end, you know, that's really for the benefit of the whole population. So that's, you know, you don't have to rely on just one piece of information.
Thank you. I think I'm just gonna ask one of the other. Nati, would you like to ask your question out loud so that it's not just me and my voice? You're welcome to come in, Nati.
All right, I'm happy to ask it out loud. So just my question was around how often the data gets updated, right? So you find that there are developments on the ground that are happening, both formal and informal developments that are happening over time. So when you have asked people to collect the data at a certain time, they'll collect the data, and of course that will go up on the system. But how often do you go to, you know, to say, okay, let's update the data now so that people get accurate information or accurate data?
Yeah, again, I mean, it depends on the type of information. If you know, let's say you follow you want to follow the development of urban settlements. So ideally, you would want to at least to update your data set once a year. And so you can't, you know, you can't run a program that's going, you know, like 5 or 10 years just for that. So you need to also, during your program, you need to establish the right procedures and to train the people so that they will be able to take the process forward and to continue to update the information. So of course that you know, that's the tricky part, because you never know how it's going to continue. You never know whether, I mean, those people are going to continue to get some budget to update the data sets. So that's really, really important to work that upfront, and to not, you know, say to yourself, okay, I'm going to deal with that issue at the end of the project, and that's all right. No. So you need to really, when you start designing your program, you need to start thinking about how I'm going to support the sustainability of that process. And that's why, I mean, I think one key success factor is to rely on established institutions in your city. So whether, you know, again, a local tech community, an NGO, or like a unit within a municipality that's willing to take the process forward. If you have that, if you have those kind of people, yeah, work with them and make sure that, you know, they will be empowered to continue the process.
Thank you. And I think Sihle also has a question or two. Do you want to come in, Sihle?
Sure thing. Sorry, I was trying to locate my my mute. Can you hear me? I'm on the move. Sorry.
That's all right. We can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So the first question was just around working with the local partners, right? So trying to understand what that key component is to successful. These contexts being different, you can kind of. You can't always anticipate what the challenges might be. So that's the first question. And then the second question is around cities looking to become a part of the project. Do they need to come with like a formulated idea or plan of how the data is going to be mapped out and who the partners are going to be? Or does the project assist with the coordination around these key stakeholders?
Yeah. So on the first question, so how do we identify the local stakeholders? I mean, it's quite organic and it depends on city by city, but we always have what we call a stakeholders map, where we try to identify all potential stakeholders that can contribute to the project, either because, you know, they have a mandate to do that, or because they have the skills or capacities or the experience to work with geospatial data. So that's important not to miss anyone that, you know, could provide a very good contribution. But then, of course, it also depends, on the local dynamics. So it's also, and you can't learn that from a book or from this research. So you have to go there, you have to discuss with people to understand the interactions, the existing linkages, so that kind of thing. So it's important not to come up with your ideas that could look nice, but then because of issues between relations or that kind of thing, that could break actually the local dynamic. So it's important to listen anyway. So go there, listen to people, listen to who they want to work with, and then you're not, in the end, you should not be the decision maker. So just guide the process. On the second question, so we don't have a formal process for engagement, obviously. So we mainly work with cities where we had a World Bank project, so urban development project or disaster risk management project. But I would say if you are part of a city that is interested in the methodology, just email me. And yeah, we will see what we can do. Either there is a World Bank project and we can maybe do something. Either there is another partner that is interested in putting money and we can work together. Or, just contact me. We'll discuss.
I have one last question. Sorry. If I can just jump in one last time. Now, in terms of disseminating the information and the mapping, how is that packaged and shared so that citizens can also access this new information about their cities and obviously some of the research that they would have informed and formed a part of?
Yeah, so we do have a website. Actually, I forgot to share. We share in the chat, opencitiesproject.org. Any data set that could be released as open data has been released as open data. So either on OpenStreetMap, you can also find the links in the website. If we developed tools, so we publish the code source on GitHub so that you can find the tools and reuse them. The methodology also is open source, so you can reuse the Open Cities methodology yourself. So really we are trying to document a lot. So we also have blog posts. So I will also share that with you for each city, where you have a summary of the issues, of the data that were produced and so on.
Okay. Nati just had one follow-up question. How do you choose your localized partners and what type of expertise do they need to have?
Yeah, so I think I already addressed a bit that one. The type of expertise that we are looking for is, so three types. So one, you need the stakeholders who have an official mandate to manage a city. So it's going to be your municipality, it's going to be maybe the agency for urban development, something like that. Then you need people with skills in urban development, resilience, climate change adaptation. So that could be, researchers, experts within universities, and hopefully you will be able, to have like a good university that's covering the city. And the third type of expert, of course, are the data people, the geeks, and those. So most of the cities in Africa nowadays, you have open source, open data communities, civic tech communities. So that's normally the type of people we are targeting.
Thank you. I'm sorry, everyone. I don't think Joyce is going to be able to make it. So is that you, Joyce?
Hello, can you hear me? Yes, it's me.
Are you able to carry on?
No, because I'm joining from my phone. I think my connection, like my internet connection went off. So I'm joining from my phone.
Okay, would you like me to share your slides for you, and then you
yes,
can...
Yes, but I won't be able to see what you're showing. But I can talk briefly about what I was starting to present.
Okay, so what we will do is I will share all the slides with all the attendees, and she can then just go on now with just speaking to what she was going to say without the slides. Over to you, Joyce.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, and sorry again for all the troubles. So as I was saying, we have been working with the 11 cities in 4 thematic clusters. The first one was tax collection with the city of Bamako in Mali, Masola in Mozambique, and Kumasi in Ghana. Citizen participation with the city of Vise in Tunisia, the city of Benghazi in Morocco, and the city of Kigali in Rwanda. Land registry with Semepoti in Benin and Nouakchott in Mauritania. And finally, mobility and road safety with Kampala, Uganda, Lagos, Nigeria, and Niamey in Niger. The idea of the project is to, once they have identified their challenges in those 4 thematic areas, to help them develop a local action plan where they explain how they want to have these challenges, who they want to involve, how much would it cost, what data need to be collected, what actions need to be made. And we also put them in contact with local experts and international experts to also, on one side, help them having very solid local plans that will help them maybe find some funds to implement their local action plan, but also to have a stronger local ecosystem, a stronger local tech ecosystem. Some of our milestones have been the launch of the kickoff in Kampala in October 2019, the city visits we have been able to do in 9 of the 11 cities, some cluster meetings that have been taking place physically. Most of the meetings have been done virtually due to COVID, but have been able to meet in person and to have workshops and trainings in person as well as online. And to be very concrete, what our different cities are doing, Bamako, they are actually in the process of developing an enrollment platform for the vignette tax with mobile payment. The vignette tax is a tax that all people that own two-wheel vehicles, motorbikes and that kind of thing, they have to pay every year. And they used to do that manually, and they had to travel all the way to the city hall to pay for the tax. And now they are developing this of the entire tax collection and management system with the creation of a data center. In Benghazi, they are working on the development of a platform to schedule medical appointments to patients, and they also have been involving community relays. So it's not only a digital solution, it's also a social solution, because some people who are not very tech savvy will need the help of those community relays.
Vise is working in the development of a management and monitoring platform for waste management services, management of citizen complaints, and monitoring of collection routes. Kigali, they are working on the reduction of the digital divide by setting up an ICT center. In Kampala, they are developing a road traffic monitoring and incident reporting platform. In Niamey, it's a mobile payment platform for the monthly tax of cab owners and other vehicles. In Nouakchott, they are working on a unique citywide addressing system and city map consultation platform. And finally, Semepoji, they are working on a platform for storage, access, and consultation of the database and land titles. So in the PowerPoint, you'll be able to see some screenshots of the mobile app that Kampala is developing. And also the platform that the city of Bizerte is working on to help monitoring the waste management collection and that kind of thing. It's an application that will, on one side, will be useful for the municipality because they will be able to track the routes. It will be useful for the drivers and the agents of cleanliness. But it will also be an app that the citizens will be able to use for them to follow the routes, to see where the driver is when he's coming, and also to report where there are any black points. That also makes me think of the presentation that made about Bamako and the solid waste management. And in all of these solutions, all of these projects, we have been helping the cities, working with the local tech ecosystem with different startups and building strong partnerships. And this was very interesting because in some countries, there is no legal framework for PPPs for the moment. And so it also addressed some questions about legislation and development of all these legal frameworks. And it has been very interesting. And right now, all the cities are meeting in Bizerte, Tunisia. So this is why I was traveling to Tunisia today, because all of the cities will join and work together during 3 days to do some peer exchanges, to talk about best practices in every local context, see how everything has been evolving since the last time we met. The last time we met was in Kigali in November. So I hope this.
I think we've lost a bit again.
To be shared to you to see what we have been doing and what we aim to do in the next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce, and thank you for trying other methods and still joining us. Does anyone have any questions for Joyce? No, that's all right too. I think if there's no more questions or any more comments, we are happy to close. I just wanted to thank everyone for attending, and thank you, Pierre, for holding down the fort, and thank you, Joyce, for still finding a way to join us. We will share the video and we will share the slides with everyone who registered and attended. So we'd just like to thank you for bearing with us today. And yeah, I know it's a Monday, so it's not always the nicest day to attend a webinar. So we truly appreciate you guys joining us. And there's still more sessions at Rise Africa today. You'll see in the chat where you've been provided with the program if you're still keen for more sessions. So yeah, thank you and goodbye.